right now.
Okay, there we
Hello,
go.
and welcome to another episode of The Pedophile Huntress. We're here with a common goal that you be encouraged in heart and united in love. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Tonight, I have Osana with me again. She came before, she told her story. She's a survivor. And as many healed survivors do, we want to give back to our communities, build and grow. She has an organization called PPE Kids. And so this is part two of her interview. Her first interview has been seen, I don't know, over a few hundred times. And so it was
Mhm,
a popular one. And now this is the second part. I
mhm,
wanted her to come back and share with you guys this online tool that she has called Behind the Smile. And Behind the Smile, I'm going to have Osana tell us in her own words why she called it that. But she's also going to show us, she's going to share her screen and show us this beautiful tool that she has, walk us through the program. And then we're going to tell you guys how you can get this because this is a tool for child prevention. And what my channel is all about is education and healing. So, Asana, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you.
hey, hi. Well, thank you for having me. Um, so
Yes, of course.
yeah, so I'll start. Behind the smile is we call it that because because of you know, but it's what's really happening behind the smile, and by that we mean
Mhm.
behind the child's, you know, awkward smile because they're trying to cover it up. They don't know what to make of what happened to them, and of course the abuser smile, to pretend like nothing ever happened. So behind all these fake smiles, this kind of shows you what's really happening. And I've attended a bunch of other trainings in the past, and and they are wonderful. I would never. I just I guess it takes my. I have this. So I've done human resources for over 20 years, and so I take that research, and I've always been interested in science, psychology. So
Mhm.
I take all that in with me, and I get to the bottom of what's really happening when a child is abused. What's really happening in that person's mind? Why was that child selected? And that's where behind that's and all those parts help you understand how to protect your child, what to look for. We've noticed a lot of misconceptions about abuse, some labels that people put on people, and it creates um, a false sense of safety for parents because you think, a lot of times, and it's a big in the headlines right now. But a lot of people think that I've heard people think that if well your child's not trafficked, so it's fine, and I'm going, well, there are a lot of other ways your child can be hurt. Don't think
Mhm. Yes.
just
Yes.
because your child comes home that night,
That's right.
they're safe. That doesn't mean they're safe. And so, we want to tell people that, you know, um, that that they still need to be mindful. They still need to be vigilant. Don't let your guard down. It's a hard thing to do nowadays, but you have to do it as a parent. You have to stay vigilant. You have to ask questions of child givers. You have to find out who's around your children. You
Mhm.
have to know. You just have to. And it's not, you just can't ever think it's okay because unless it's you and you're not hurting your child, then you're fine. Anybody else, you need to be questioning. You need to be looking. You need to be asking questions and looking for
Right.
signs.
Right. And one thing I love, and Osana and I are going to chat later about labels and using the word pedophile and all of these things after
Mm-hmm.
she shows us kind of, I want to see her tool first. That's
Oh,
where we're going to start. But one of the things she just talked about is trafficking. Trafficking is really big in the news right now. The trafficking represents an incredibly small portion of the millions of numbers that we have around victims of childhood sexual crimes. Well, those are
exactly.
egregious and horrifying. That's not the bulk of childhood sexual crimes, right?
Exactly. And that's, because I see that and I'm like, I don't want parents to see that and go, whew, it's a good thing
Right.
my kid's right here. No, that your child is still not safe. And I don't want to, and please believe me, I would never want to promote fear or, be a fear monger or try
Hmm.
to. I just want prevent. I just want people, the parents, to be aware,
Yeah,
and
you're
that's all.
actually
I don't
doing
want
the
to frighten
opposite,
people. I just
love.
want you to be aware. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'm like, you need to know. And here's the thing about our training is that we don't just tell you the signs. We have scripted video that shows you how to put, we tell you how to interrupt it. And we show you how. We have video, we have actors, you know, um, repeating
I
lines back
love
and forth. So
that. I
we
hope you're going to show
yeah.
us.
Oh, yeah. So we don't just tell you, we show you the signs. We show you, we
Hmm.
tell you how to redirect the behavior, and then we show you how, and then we take it a step further. We say, and we show
Awesome.
you what to do when a child discloses, when a child discloses, and even when a child um, takes their disclosure back, because that happens too. And you need to know what that means and how to respond to those things, because a lot of people think they know, but until it really happens, you don't know. And we want to make sure you know from the beginning to the end. We
Right.
don't want to, yeah, we want to make sure you
Yeah.
come out of here knowing what's going on.
That makes
That's
me think about this one counselor I had for years and years and years. And I developed a genuine love just for him as a human being and for how much he helped
Mhm.
me. But one of the things he'd say, I'd come in and I'd say, oh, so and so talked about, this happened to now their daughter. And he's like, oh, did they just become part of the club? And unfortunately, I knew exactly what he meant. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
I read a lot about this stuff just like you do. And there was
Yeah,
this one article I read that said, this woman said, we're all a rock's throw away from someone who has been touched by sexual trauma. And it's just so true. We don't like to
it
believe that.
is.
We don't like to see it.
Hmm.
But I guess there's another thing I want to say before you get ready to just show us your screen. And I really would like to see a snippet of those videos with your actors and stuff. I think
I
that's really
will.
cool. I'm interested. But I
Yeah,
think, it's kind of like you saying there's a lot of trainings out there. Well, there's a lot of different kinds of oatmeals and brands. It's all just oatmeal. But what you
yeah.
do with the oatmeal can be, I like this one, I like that one. So I
Hmm.
think it's super cool that you've brought your own flair, that you've brought your own
Yeah,
experiences. I also think that our experiences help satisfy the real need because we understand it on a much, much more
exactly.
granular basis, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what we talked about before when I was saying, we had a campaign for the 12 days of protection, and that came about because my husband was going to do 12 days of Christmas. I said, no, 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 because I unfortunately have been abused numerous times in numerous situations, throughout my childhood and early adulthood. So I knew that when the family gets together, when the holidays come, that's the time to really put your guard up and
Yes.
really watch your children. So I said, let's give parents tips to get them ready, because we started it before the holidays, like beginning of December. And I said, let's get them ready for the holidays that are coming. They need to know what to
Yes.
keep an eye out for. So that's where the 12 days of protection comes from, because, you know, um, I know that you need
So
to
true.
watch. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, yeah. But you want me to get started or?
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. If you want to share your screen, but I think it's
Yeah.
so true. What Asana was sharing is holidays are ripe for abuse because people
Hmm.
are excusing
Hmm.
behavior, whether it's over drinking, whether it's here, come sit by me on the couch with a blanket and let's watch TV. Well, it's just Uncle Johnny or whatever, or it's cousin Richard. If a child says, I don't want to sit there. Listen to the
Hmm.
child. They don't have to have a reason. Just trust their instincts. I mean, so many times abuse could be, stopped if we would stop worrying about what other people think and just protect our child. Who cares? Maybe you're wrong.
Exactly.
But what happens
Exactly.
in that one time where you're right?
Yeah, and then it doesn't even have to be an adult. It could be all the kids together.
That's right.
And you have
Yep.
all these different age groups, and they're all playing, and the kids are off playing. Who's watching those kids? Because first, and it's not
100%.
even, it doesn't even have to be something sexual. It could just be nastiness. One kid's being mean to the others. Someone needs
Hmm.
to be, you have a designated driver. There needs to be a designated person sitting in there watching those kids, or two watching those kids, and make sure everybody's treating people with each other with respect, or
Yeah.
checking on them or something. But yeah, and that's where that the 12 days of prevention came from. But yeah.
Okay. Are you
And
ready
so
to share your
yeah,
screen?
I sure am. So let me
Let's do it. I'm
Okay.
excited to see
Me,
this.
me too. I can't wait to show it to you. So I took the training myself, and let me just get you. Okay. Okay. So this is what the screen. Well, first of all, let me get you to the. And this is what the screen looks like once you get the course. And we're working on mini courses as well, and we're going to break down all the modules and put so if you only want to do one at a time, you can do that, and it'll be about, I think there'll be $49 each, and then you can just go in and we'll, of course, like I said, there's going to be a discount at the end of the show, and I'll send you the discount, so when you post it, it'll be in there.
Okay, that's
But this
awesome.
is so when you go in here, so I'm going to just replay the course, and um so we start at the beginning, we let you know who we are, and and so and but um we go into so
Awesome.
okay, I really hate looking at myself, but
No, 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 it's wonderful. Thank you. So
so
you
that
start with who we
yeah,
are.
with yeah, and we go into who this training is
This is
for,
beautiful.
and this is,
Really
yeah,
nicely
accountable.
done.
Thank you. And then but we also have a trigger warning, and this probably looks, my screen is minim as out of proportion, so it looks funnier, but it should look better on theirs, on your screen. But we want
It
people to take
does. No,
breaks.
it
Does it
looks
okay?
great.
Because it looks funny on mine. But so you take breaks as much. We want you to know, take breaks, pause. This could be overwhelming, and we give you hotline numbers to call, and you're not alone. Your well-being matters. We also want you to know that we talk about what's included. We have a glossary of terms, because again, you don't have to know
Mhm.
everything, but we have this for you, and you can refer back to it at any time. And also what we have
Very
and the
nice.
the other modules are going to have um, the mini modules are going to have a workbook. This one, the big one, doesn't, because it comes at the end. We're thinking about putting one in, but yeah, and this is because we want you to have reflection. So we ask you to have a notebook handy to jot down your thoughts about different things that you learned, because you can always go back, but we want you to think as you, this is a process. We
Mhm.
don't want you to think that, again, we want you to learn this. And so,
Well,
and we,
and it also helps
mhm,
learning. Just as you say
exactly.
that, when a person hears something, you retain 5% of it. When you write it down and hear it,
Hmm.
it goes up by 10%. When you
Yeah.
actually put it into effect, it actually goes up to like 80%. Yeah, so that's
Wow.
cool.
Yeah. So yeah. So, and then this one is the offender comments, because so I don't just, so we got some comments from different offenders who were in jail, but they
Mhm.
spoke with scientists, and they explained how they did it or why they hurt children. So, and we show you that, and we tell you why, and this kind of explains why we did that. We want to pull back the curtain on offenders. We don't want you to think they're kind. We want you to understand the
Mhm.
manipulation that's going through their mind when they do this.
Mhm.
And we want you to understand the patterns, what they're doing, how they're doing, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and why. And and I can tell you one really important one. You know how you have hashtags, right, on the
Mhm.
internet. Well, so the digital equivalent of a predator watching children on a playground is for a predator looking for hashtag lonely girl, hashtag lonely person.
Oh, wow.
That's how they, yeah. So if your child is lonely and they put hashtag lonely girl,
Wow.
hashtag no friends, well, predators look, they scan for that. And
Wow.
yeah, you wouldn't think that, but that's the digital equivalent of that as well. And
And
we go
isn't that,
into,
it's just heartbreaking. It's
isn't it? You're just
heartbreaking to
like,
think that. I think about my 14-year-old granddaughter and I think, oh my
uh,
gosh, well, they just
exactly.
want to share their emotions. They
And
would
that,
be, they're
mhm.
predators everywhere.
Yeah, and they scan for that. I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, are you kidding? Yeah, and I
Wow.
had one offender, and that comment's in there. Another offender comment is, um, I get the mother to like me, because if the mother likes me, then the
Yep.
house is then the house is mine. I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh. And he said, that's how you get in.
Wow. You know
Yeah.
what? That reminds me of a very famous offender who I watched a documentary that they talked about it. He bought the family homes, the parents' homes and stuff.
I think I know the same offender you're
Yes.
talking about. Yes, you get a hold of those.
Yes.
And I
That's
think that's,
it's brilliant
and
because
it's,
the family actually supports you.
yeah. And
He
it's
would
like,
call the
oh,
parents to cut for help. I'm all freaked out. I need help. The parents would go get him. It's crazy. Yeah.
yeah. And so, yeah. And then we tell you what to expect. And then the success criteria, that's just for the quiz. We want you to learn. So just keep, taking it. And let me see,
It's
it was,
awesome.
and this is a disclaimer, of course. There's a disclaimer in here. So, we want to make sure that you're not, so because of the, because of the information you're going to learn, we don't want someone to go in and say, hey, he fits all the criteria for so and so and react. We want to make sure you understand that you need to follow protocol. You call the police.
Mhm.
You are not an investigator, and you should not be. This is, so that's what this disclaimer covers. But this is
Okay.
the, but this is the first module, and it says, I'm going to say this is the mindset. This goes over the different types of offenders. So it goes over the fixated offenders. Those are the clinical
Yeah, and we talked
pedophile.
about this. Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
No, talk about it. This is
So,
wonderful to see.
so, so a lot of people use the term pedophile, and that's a label that is easy to remember. However, most pedophiles are a pedophile is rare in the fact that they are primarily or that let's say primarily or frequently having intercourse or relations with children. I hate to say that word with
All
children
right.
together.
Raping children, that's probably the
Oh,
right thing to say.
that's awful, but yeah, that's a word. Um,
That's the right
yeah,
term.
but so that's usually a fixated offender, and and you see they have a persistent and exclusive sexual attraction to children. That's the clinical pedophile. And they are always looking for access to children, either as a teacher, coach, mentor. Um, and they tend to groom children, and they usually go for the long game because in their mind they're building a relationship. So they're in it for, they play the long game. They will take months, even years before they actually harm a child. They just because they're grooming everybody. Well, I shouldn't say year. They can take a lot, but months. Whereas the other sorts of offenders don't take that long. And all offenders other after that are really different types of opportunistic. They're seizing they're seizing an opportunity. Opportunistic. So this is the opportunistic one, and that abuse is they take they look for lack of supervision, isolation, and these all can be, and this is a situational offender is the type of offender who's having problems at home, and who's going through a divorce, starting drinking a little extra, and then they'll harm a child at that point. The power base is usually, say if, and this was, I think I was a victim of this, um, um, when you have a step parent or a boyfriend of your mother, or that kind of, to assert dominance, they'll harm the children. And so that's what that abuse is driven by: dominance, humiliation, coercion, threats, or violence. And this is often tied to trauma and environments where violence is normalized. So you have domestic abuse in the home, you have a higher chance of sexual abuse for the children. And if you have, and actually, I'm working on a presentation for single mothers, especially women at abuse centers, because I've seen a lot of research that says that male abusers, look for women coming out of abuse centers because they're weaker and they're more
Mm,
likely to, to be,
right.
to not, to trust somebody, or as long as you're not, because, because they've been harmed. And so they a lot of strange behavior is normalized. And so you really want to, so that's what we're working. And we're also working on a parent page as well. And so this is the juvenile and peer offenders, and that is one of the largest group. Peer-on-peer and online abusers are some of the largest groups of abusers right now. Um, and it happens a lot in peer-on-peers where someone is they're both young, but one is older than the other, a good bit older, a few years, and they're either physically or mentally dominant over the victim. And so in that situation, you actually want to help both, because more than likely the offender at that point has probably been abused themselves. So, you want to try to get them both help. So and that kind of goes into, and this then there's, and we have so with all the videos, there's always as you can see, a text for it. So you can't watch the video at the time, you can always read it and go back to it without having to watch the whole video again. um, and so, and then this is the reflection activity. Why do you think it's important to understand the mindsets of an abusers and things, and that's just something to think about. And then we have, let me see, there's another one. So this is Finkel, or Dr. David Finkelhorn. And as you'll see, back in the 1980s, he created, much like I was so excited to see that this existed, because I was like, wait a minute. Um, about 2 years ago, I was like, wait a minute. If there's steps, then this can be stopped. If people know the steps of how then you can stop the steps. And of course, and this particular doctor figured out the same thing. And so he put this together, and he created the 4 conditions that must be present for child sexual abuse to happen. And if you interrupt any one of these, you can stop abuse. The first one
Mm.
is so, and now the first 2 are really in the person's head, right? It's the motivation, some deviant sexual desires, fantasies. The other one is the second step is overcoming internal inhibitors, morals, if there's stress, or um, those kind of things, or they might just how they can figure out to justify it to themselves what they're doing. Now, but step 3 is where we can help. This is where everybody has a chance to stop abuse. Offenders look for gaps in this. This is the overcoming external barriers. That's where background checks, prevention steps, talking to your child, knowing the signs of grooming. That's where that comes in. If you know those things and you have a good relationship with your child, you can stop this. That's your time. And then step 4 is overcoming the child's resistance. A lot of time that happens. Um, a lot of times that can happen through tickling, telling secrets, giving gifts. Those are all the ways that they break down a child. In most situations, they break them down, or they, um, to get them to be compliant, or to get them to normalize the affection or the attention that they're getting. And so we have a call out study, and this is neighborhood, and you answer the questions, and that's kind of that. And so then we go into the quiz. Now, yeah, so but yeah, that's easy when you wrote it. I mean, get 100% is easy if you wrote it. But then we go into um, victim selection, and victim selection and vulnerabilities. So this is where we show you how the different types of profiles or mindsets go about grooming a child, what they're looking for. And so let me see. And the offender says, one offender said if they laughed and kept the secret, I knew I could go further. Another one said, I always look for the quiet ones, the kids nobody was paying attention to. They were the safest targets.
Wow.
So, and we need to let, and then people don't know that minorities, if you're a minority and you're around people who are not, and you're like, so you say you're black and you're around a lot of people who are not black, or and you're the only brown one there, that makes you kind of a target, because if you don't feel like you fit in and you're off to the side, that makes you a target. If you're a member of the LGBT plus community, you're you know they have a higher rate of that as well. So do people minorities. They both have, though both those groups are at a higher risk for abuse. Um, and so knowing those things, to keep an eye on them or talk to them, or if you're a parent or if you're a teacher, to keep an eye on them, those kind of things. It's so important to know which groups. I mean, they're all, you need to watch them all, but if you have someone off to the side, find out why. Are you okay? Do you want to talk to somebody? That kind of thing. And then we ask the reflection activities are like, think about a setting you're familiar with, school, sports, online. What opportunities might offenders have to test or isolate children? How could those opportunities be closed? And so, so we go into, like I said before, this talks about people who LGBT plus youth and kids in foster care are also at a higher risk. And just explaining that I picked kids who wanted someone to talk to. I gave them what they weren't getting at home. That's what the offender explained. Um, and we kind of give takeaways and reflection activities. Think of a time when you saw a child struggling socially, emotionally. What role can safe adults play in preventing offenders from exploiting these child's needs? And that's another thing I should say. Throughout this training, the goal is to get you to be a safe adult. So we're teaching you how to be a safe adult. And at the end, we talk about what does a safe adult do when they see these things happening. So when you see someone redirecting someone in the videos, and I'm going to go to that now, but this is what a safe adult would do ideally. So this is the factors. 3 kind of talks about um, different immigrants and refugee families and racial minority children have systematic barriers, including underreporting and disbelief of claims. And that's another thing. People need to understand that I believe it's less than 5% of children make that up. When a child says
Hmm.
they've been hurt, believe them. First of all,
Exactly.
it took them a lot to say that. And your response in that moment can either help them or hurt them terribly. And so that's what, and we talk about that because people can say, because you think when someone says, someone touched me, you think that you would say, one of the first things you would probably say is, I believe you. Well, that's not what you should say, actually. And I'll tell you why when we get down there. But see, and this is more information about situational adults and how they get access to children. And then we go into what it's like to actually, so this is the mindset, the selection, and this is the act now. In module 3, we talk about actually grooming the victim and the steps that it takes to groom a victim. Um, Often say, survive, and we have a survivor comment. They said that, you know, first of all, and we try to give them good news that, that this is not some insurmountable task. You can do this. You can stop children from being hurt. And so we try to give them points of encouragement all throughout this. And so that's a motivational insight. Don't feel overwhelmed. By completing this module, you're gaining more than just knowledge. You're becoming a protective force between children and potential harm. Each time you recognize, question, and interrupt grooming, you offer a child safety, hope, and opportunity to grow up free. So that's what that is. And so we go into the different types of, and we actually talk about, that's where we get into all the different types and how fixated offender uses flattery. and gifts. Situation will perpetuate will position himself as a supportive friend in difficult time. A power-based abuser will leverage reputation as a respected leader or caregiver. Child on child will build trust by saying they're cool or offering to you want to hang out with us, that kind of thing. You want to be cool, that's what that is. So just we go into the different types of each stage of grooming. We have 7 here. We talk about each stage and how each mindset goes about doing it. So and we stress that this can be done any way, but this is how each type of person is going to try it. And all these can be stopped with just having rules and making sure that people follow them, and it but if you're at home, some people have a no closed door rule at their house, things like that. So and you want to build that rapport with your children early on and say, hey, the world is crazy out there, but
And
I love
yeah,
you. And
well,
yeah,
and I
and
was thinking about this as I'm listening to you.
mhm,
So much of
mhm,
this to me seems focused, which is wonderful, but it seems focused on outside of the home, school, sports,
yeah,
online. You know what I mean? And so, and which is absolutely wonderful because how do you
yeah,
even touch incest? Because
yeah.
so much of in-home abuse and that kind of thing, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know what you do about that. However, this is tremendously useful for outside of the home, for school and sports and online,
No,
and where you don't feel you belong and that sort of thing.
and we are working on one for incest and one for
That's
home abuse.
awesome.
That's what we're putting that together now.
Oh, it's
So we
awesome.
have a couple of psychiatrists, one in Pittsburgh and one in Alabama, and they help us put together. And they specialize in trauma, and they work with me to put this all together. But yeah, that's how they kind of review all the research I do and put it together. And so they go over it. So, and that's kind of how this is created. But yes, we are working on that. But someone has asked me, but some of these steps can be used or can be,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I
moved,
agree with
used
you.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
do feel like if there's a mother out there who's listening and just even, looks at some of these grooming techniques and that sort of thing, I think it's
yeah,
incredibly useful. And I'm not
yeah.
saying that at all, but no,
Oh,
please
no, it's
continue.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh no,
please
and
continue.
we're also working to kind of put together a parent page because we want to have a specific page just for parents. It'll be a year membership, and it's going to be pretty amazing because essentially we'll be like I think it's going to be like $20 a year, and we'll be your insurance
Wow.
policy for your kids. All you have to do is you sign up with us. We will send you information to keep your child safe. And if you have someone, we can check the national registry for you. And if you want, we can actually, help you to get to do a quick background check if you want. They're a babysitter. We can, and they're going to do a job for you. We can do a background check on them to make sure they're safe to be around your kids. And then if something goes wrong, God forbid, we can help you with a list of doctors, a list of attorneys, a list of people that can help you. You wouldn't be
Oh,
alone
that's
if that
awesome.
happened. Yeah, we that's because we think of it as, and we're not worried about. I mean, yes, we're pretty much self-funded. So, but this is so near and dear to my heart. I don't want anyone to ever think that they can't afford our help because if
Right.
someone were to email me now, I'd be there. I'd be calling. How can I help? Because I don't ever want to see a child hurt ever. Um, I feel like that's God's calling for me to do what I can to help kids. So
It's
so if
beautiful.
somebody says, how can so we're self-funded, but if so, and all of our services are on a pay what you can basis for organizations and for parents. So if you can't afford it, we've had several clients, it's not, and they can't afford it, so it's fine. We'll do it because we want to make sure that kids are safe. We
That's
will help.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
well, keep going. Yeah, I
as
mean, I think
okay.
this is beautiful. I mean, I do just want to see all your modules here if we
Okay,
can. I
so
know, I mean,
let
it's
me go.
just
So
beautiful.
no, so this is what you so this is so we teach you, we've taught you all that. Now Now that you have all this information, you see the signs. What do? Well, you look for what they call clusters. So not just one sign in by itself. No, you need to get it all together. Here's a survivor account. It wasn't the presence alone. It was the presence, the late night text, and the way he kept saying, "Don't tell your parents." Looking back, the whole pattern was clear. And that's kind of what we're teaching people,
Right.
not just one thing. You want to, you once you start seeing things, you want to get one or two or three things together, and then you got something to be concerned about. Here's an example of that, and we give you a video example, but here's one: special attention,
Mm.
isolation plus secrecy. That's a cluster. You do something, and then boundary testing, normalizing touch, and then gifts. That's you do something. Cluster three, online validation, romance language, and secrecy. You do. These are all examples of concerning clusters.
Mm.
And so this is where we say trust your gut. If something
Yep.
feels off, you act. If it feels off, don't ignore it. Act. Name it, articulate, and name it. Say what it is. Articulate your suspicion. Start making that paper trail. Um, and it just says, how teachers, parents, community members often report that they felt something wasn't right. Your child comes home from practice and she doesn't seem
Hmm.
right. You start paying attention. You start writing it down. You start documenting. You start talking to your baby. And so that kind of thing. And so there's a reflection. This is like a little scenario they can do. And then we have how to interrupt. So you got the clusters. You know the signs. You got the clusters. So what do? So you put the rules in, and what's going to happen when you start putting boundaries up? You're going to get pushback. And what do you do? What do you do? Do you what you do is, and we talk about that. So let me see. Does it on this? So what you want to do is this is child protection policies for organizations, but what you want to do is you want to say, here's an example.
And we can't hear that unfortunately because the
Oh,
the
am I?
sound isn't coming through. Sorry
Oh, is
about
it?
that.
Wait, hold on. Let me see. Hold on. I can see if let me see.
I think you have to
Share.
open that and say share sound. Yeah.
Okay, you are sharing the screen. Hold on. Let me. Oh, come on. Let me. Hold on. I am video. Oh, I don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see it.
Oh, that's
No. Oh,
okay.
wait,
You
wait,
know
wait, wait. Hold
what?
on. Wait. Hold on. Wait. I think I found it. Let me see. Eh.
You might
Same.
have to stop the share and share again.
Oh, really? Oh, you may try that? Well, I
Yeah,
can.
you can if you want. Yeah, you can
Do we
if you
have, do we
want
have
to.
time? Okay.
Well,
Do
we
we have
have about
time?
9 minutes, so it's up to you how you use it. Just because
No,
we're coming up on our hour, it goes
okay.
fast.
I know. So that's and so
And
this
we
tells
can
you,
read that. We
yeah.
could
And
certainly
so,
read that.
this is so, and that's example. So first, so what you want to do is, and I'll tell you what it is. What it essentially is telling you to do is support the child and focus on the action and not the person. So don't say you're acting weird. Just say, this seems weird. Why don't we just let her sit here with me? She doesn't have to sit on your lap. That's fine. That just seems weird. So just sit here. That you want to support the child and focus on the action and not the actor, not the person. That's all. You don't want to call them names. You want to bring attention to them. You just want to support the child and separate the child from that situation and focus on the behavior and not the child and not the person. That's all you want to do. But let me see if I can. So here's okay. Oh, oh,
Oh, so then you're getting right. We can't hear it, but I see. So you've got now. a role
This
play
is,
of what this looks like.
yeah. So you can see how, um, so it looks like when, so that's kind of what it looks like. He's talking, and the lady with the braids here,
Okay.
she would be that's the redirection. How, so you kind of, you just want to redirect the behavior. That's all. And that's what she's doing. She's
Okay.
teaching him how, she's redirecting that and teaching them how to do that. And even for peer on peer. So we, if you look here, we go through peer on peer, situational offender, power-based offender, opportunistic. So all the different types, we show we show what it might look like for them to try to get access to a child, and then we show what it looks like to redirect them because they're going to give you pushback. So that kind of thing, and so that's what that looks like. The next one is going to be the when a child discloses, and like I said, when a child says, you know, um, so and we talk about the different ways that a child can um, disclose abuse, and it's never really straightforward. But there are some times where they might, and the power of a safe adult, and if you can, you can recognize survivors of abuse by their courage. When silence is so very inviting, they step forward and share their truth so others know they aren't alone. And so there's a different, we go over the different types of disclosure: indirect, a gradual, accidental, behavioral
Oh, that's
disclosure.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
and so you know what that might look like.
Yeah.
How behavior and, play, and they may say it. And then and we talk about the different barriers, and notes say that found the survivors do not disclose directly, and it's a gradual process. What it is their kids are testing you. When they want to disclose, they're testing you to see, so they may say a little bit, and they may say a little bit more, and depending on how you react.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that in doing this research and doing this created, I learned that I probably wouldn't have been a safe adult. um, because my kids know that back when I was younger, I was this fierce protective mom because I wasn't protected, growing up. So
Mm-hmm.
I was a fierce protector of my children. And they know that if someone had touched them or something, I would have turned and talk about mama bear. Whew, I know this. So, and they knew this. So I feel bad that I'm like, well, thank God nothing ever happened to them. But I don't think but that's not, but you think they need that. But at the time of abuse, they need you to be calm. They need you to
Mm-hmm.
listen. They need you to breathe. They need you to listen. That's what they need. They don't need you to explode because children take that in as their fault. They think they did something wrong, even if you say it's not your fault. They still take it in that way
Mm-hmm.
if you're mad. So,
Right.
so you have to stay calm, you have to breathe, you have to tell them that even if it doesn't matter, I love you and I'm here for you. We're going to get through this, that kind of thing. Um, and one thing you don't say, and I'll say, um, and we go into that, you can't, it's not, it's seen as a bad idea to tell a child that I believe you. And I'm trying to get through as fast as I can now, but and the reason for that is because if you tell a child that, then it becomes something where you say, where it can change it. It can kind of be like a coercion thing. If you say, okay, so, and we asked one of our scientists, our psychiatrists, to answer that, to avoid saying they believe you, even though it's intentioned, it can unintentionally influence legal legal proceedings or affect the child's internal sense of truth. Because then they forget, did it really happen, or did it only happen because so and so said, I believe that it happened. So they need to be able to stand strong and know it happened because they said it, and it because it did happen, not because somebody else says so. And if it were to go to trial and you said, and the adult said, well, I believe you, and then it becomes, well, did she investigate? How would she know? So it's especially if you're not the child's parent. If you're a parent, then of course you're going to say that, but if you're not the parent, then, you want to not say that. Just, say, I think for me, it's just a matter of I would just love them through that and just hug them and say, I'm so sorry. You didn't do anything to deserve that. Tell me, I'm here. If you want to talk, I'll just sit here with you while you think, whatever needs to happen at that point.
You're safe. You
Yes,
could
you
even
are
just say you're
safe.
safe.
You're
Yeah,
safe. Yeah, you're safe. I'm
right.
so sorry. That kind of thing. That's but
Mhm.
that's some really important things to know. Thank you for telling me. That must have been hard
Right,
to
and I see
say.
the legal reasons why, because if
Yeah.
there's persuasion or any kind of
Mm-hmm.
leading or that sort of thing, that the other side will be really ugly in the trials. I mean, so few get to trial that if you can do all you can to help
That
convict these
job.
criminals because these are
Exactly.
crimes, then
Yes.
yeah, I 100% understand what you're saying with that.
Yeah. And then we go here to when a child retracts their statement because, you see the percentage, 20 to 30% of children who
Right.
disclose later retract their statements. And, and that's, and here's, and the thing I learned is that when that happens is almost always a response to fear or peer pressure or seeing the,
Right.
and I've seen that happen personally where people where a child retracted what happened, and you're like, no, no, because you heard them say it and you're like, no, no, but they take it back because that's what somebody else wants them to do because everyone's, all upset or whatever, and so, I know that happens. And so I think that, my seeing so many different sides of this, I was able to say, well,
Hmm.
what happens when they take it back? Because I think that made for a more thorough training. So I just thought of everything. And so, and
No,
that's,
that's
and
really good because it's part of human nature. And
mhm,
it's the very reason why you set up above, don't say the child needs to believe themselves. And even as adults, we go back and forth. Did that really happen? Oh, that didn't
right?
happen.
Oh
That
my
couldn't
gosh.
have happened because the
Right?
whole thing is designed for our mind not to accept it. For minds want to remember good, they don't want to remember bad. Offenders always groomed so that
Yes.
you don't want to disclose or remember. It's easier not to tell the truth sometimes because if
Hmm.
you put something away, you don't have to look at it. So,
Yeah,
all of those reasons,
absolutely.
I would just say nothing and wait till next week because the answer will be different.
Exactly.
That's what I, right?
Yeah, like
I
it's
mean,
well,
just
and
in
then
our own lives.
yeah, and then and with the grooming process, well, the kid thinks, well, I deserve that. I mean, he gave me money or he bought me gifts. You know what I mean? That's part of the process to
Yes,
make you
it
think
is.
I gave you a gift, so you give me that kind of thing. So I think that's something to really that's part of the process to confuse a
It
person.
is.
Yeah.
And I love that you have there affirm courage, not content. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I love that. I'm really glad you felt safe enough to talk to me and just leave it at that. That a lot of times, yeah, just a hug or a you're
Yeah.
safe. Why don't you just go take a nice warm bath? Don't even
Yeah.
jump into it because that will
Exactly.
change.
Exactly, because they're just working it through. They're working it through because
Yes.
adults are in denial. I mean, for goodness sake. So
Yes.
imagine what a
That's so
child's going
true.
through. Yeah, so you don't want to re-interview. You want to maintain support after that. And so, and that's kind of, and that's what we taught, you know, and we asked about what it makes, what it means to be a safe adult. And then we have the final quiz, and then we go to the closing, and that's really about it. We go through the
Wow, that's
clothing, and
beautiful. Really
yeah, and
nice.
yeah, and so, and that's, we go into how important it is um, to do that, and that's pretty much it. We're working on some other ones. One on how to handle what it means to be a safe adult, how to have those difficult conversations with children, how to build that rapport with kids so that they feel
Mhm.
like they trust you enough to talk to you later. I think parents need that. And actually, in this particular grooming, I don't know if you could see that, but there's a whole section on online grooming, and that's because it's such a big thing. So we have a whole
Right.
thing about grooming tactics, so they understand that we have regular grooming in person, and then we have online, because online grooming is goes a lot
Its own
faster.
thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It actually the process, the steps go faster online as opposed to in person. So that's the whole, and that's
Wow.
all of the training. Yeah. And so,
Well, that is just so beautifully done.
well,
Thank you so much.
no
That was,
problem.
I just knew that we needed to see it so we could
Yeah.
understand. And we are at time.
Hmm.
I will put in how you find the training for PPE Kids. There's also
Hmm.
going to be a discount that
Yes.
I'll put in there. I love that. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for your time. That there's so much content we could barely fit it in for an
I know.
hour.
I
I
know.
guess the only thing that I want to add as the pedophile huntress is the offender profiles. I want
Hmm.
in no way to represent from my platform that there's this big growing trend that pedophiles are now minor attracted peoples and all of that stuff. We're not
Oh, yeah.
talking about any of that kind of stuff because a
No.
lot of what's happening in the clinician world is they want to satisfy the crowd. And so this to me is not, there's a lot of stigma if we, this shift in language is very frightening, right? It can
Hmm.
destroy serious consequences. So we don't
Yeah.
want to normalize this by any means, but I
No.
appreciate everything that you've shown today. The work is so good. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
No
It's
problem.
beautiful. So if you could, right after this, just go ahead and email me that. I will put that
I
in for the
will.
viewers. All
Yes, I
right.
will. All
So
right.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for the
No
viewer.
problem.
Love you
No
so
problem.
much. Thank you for
Love
being
you
here with
too.
us. Remember, until next time, you see you. God is always looking and waiting to hear your story. All right.
Yes.
Give me a
Okay.
follow and I'll see you
Okay.
next time. Good
All right,
night.
but sure. Good night.